Hello, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates, and coming at you from Myrtle Beach uh, on the 16th floor here today, my home away from home. And I have a really interesting video to share with you guys today. I was contacted by a woman who genuinely had in her earlier life won an Olympic medal. And she's been suffering from abandonment issues and had reached out to me for some help. And so I thought it would make an interesting video, and she was wanting some feedback. And sometimes that's a good way for me to be helpful to people, is to not only make a video and help you folks out there, but also to help them and give them some feedback. So I'm going to read some emails from her to me, and then respond as I go. So she writes my name, and I'm gonna call her Jane Doe. You would know her name, but she'd probably be willing to let me share her name, because as you'll see, she was participating in a show through Oprah's network. But let's just keep her identity to herself. She said, "I've had a great amount of success in my life. I was a world champion and an Olympic medalist in the 90s, and I went on to become a noted surgeon." That's pretty impressive stuff. I've got a complex history, but the bottom line is that I eventually fell in love with a man who I now realize has severe abandonment issues. It has contributed to severe emotional and financial distress. We recently underwent a major intervention by participating in the show, I guess it's called Ayanla Fix My Life, on the OWN network, the Oprah Winfrey Network. You can Google that show. Very interesting stuff. She's usually involved with some kind of celebrity. Chad Ocho Cinco, whatever that guy's name is, and Terrell Owens, and a lot of celebrities that are having issues that she gets involved with, and a lot of interesting topics. She writes, "Unfortunately, they seem to fail to pick up on my fiance's abandonment issues. So the treatment, which was to send us off to separate places to work on ourselves individually, has totally backfired." I'm going to call him David. Was sent to an addiction rehab program, but did not stay the full 90 days. He stayed 2 weeks and learned new coping mechanisms, but abandonment was not diagnosed or treated. So, Jane Doe, I got to tell you, I've got mixed feelings about your complaints here, your concerns, because number one, I have great respect for Oprah. I feel like she's done more for recovery than anybody on the planet. She really has made a difference in the world, and I respect her immensely. And anybody on her network probably knows what they're doing. And if they were offering to pay for a 90-day addiction rehab program, then there was probably something to that. The thing about abandonment issues is you become addicted to the person that you are attached to. And So perhaps they were saying, let's get him away from this addictive relationship and get him involved in his own recovery work, which doesn't sound too bad to me. So I remember 10 years ago, actually it was 9 years ago, my abandonment issues were triggered. My relationship addiction was active, and I participated in the same treatment group that Tiger Woods went to in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, run by Dr. Patrick Carnes. And we got to the end of the week, and me just being a relationship addict, I was in a men's group with 8 pretty hardcore sex addicts. We got to the end of the week and they were like, okay, you hardcore sex addicts can go on home, but we want to keep the relationship addict. They wanted to keep me for another 45 to 90 days because relationship addiction is very powerful, and it's very unfortunate, Jane, that David's abandonment issues weren't articulated as that. They probably were called addiction, which they are. So, but I gotta tell you, I think he'd have been better off if he'd have stayed in the treatment program and worked on his relationship addiction even away from you. It's 90 days, it's not 10 years away from you. He sounds reactive and out of control and victim-y, and honestly, you sound sort of enabling. Jane continues to write, their plan was to send me to Chicago to deal with my codependency by refocusing on me. All this was throw David's abandonment issues into a tailspin. So he has given up on his follow-up treatment and wants to sue the show. I can't seem to reel him back in. I sent him the link to your pages on abandonment issues, but he's so drunk with hurt that I doubt he's even looked at them. So, Jane, David is sort of throwing a tantrum here. He wants to get his way, and I gotta be honest, it seems like you're enabling him. And you're so focused on him. Everything is about his reaction, and you're not being able to help him. You're not being able to reach him. Jane continues to write, I want to purchase your book, but believe it or not, I only have $12 to my name at this point and won't have any income until the end of the month unless friends or family help me out. I just want to know if there's anything that can be done to get him back to where he was when he first got back from his recovery program. He was in a great frame of mind, and it feels like a missed opportunity. I'm now stuck in Chicago, and of course he believes I'm just here having fun and hooking up with other men, which is ridiculous. She's there for a treatment program to work on her codependency. But again, Jane, is there anything that can be done to get him back? And your focus is on the wrong person. The only person you have any possible way of impacting the recovery of and genuine change is yourself. And it's like he's addicted to you and you're addicted to rescuing him, which is your codependency. Jane writes, I had hoped that if we were able to overcome this, then we could tell our stories and help others and work on early intervention for those at risk. At this point, David is so far gone, I don't know if there's anything I can do to bring him back to earth so he will consider that he has this problem. Any suggestions or information on damage control would be welcome. Well, Jane, again, just work on yourself, which is what I think they were telling you. But this is my response via email to Jane. Hello, sorry to hear about your painful situation. I have several ways that I can help you at no cost to yourself. Number one, we have a YouTube playlist with 35 videos at Family Tree Counseling on YouTube. And the YouTube playlist is just says Abandonment Issues, and there's 35 videos. And anybody out there who has abandonment issues, that's pretty much everything I know about abandonment issues, other than also my book on abandonment issues, Managing Abandonment Issues Through Recovery. You can get that book either on Amazon.com, or you can get it on our website, familytreecounseling.com. I like the one on our website because it has live links where you can hit a link and it'll go to a video and then it returns you to where you were in the book. I think that's a good feature that the Amazon.com one doesn't have. So what I did for this gal, because she won an Olympic medal for the United States, so I gave her a free book, and it also has 2 other free books, and I think she was grateful for that. And then I offered to make this video to respond to her, and I just thought that that would be helpful for her, hopefully for David, and also for other people out there who are struggling with abandonment issues. Abandonment issues are tough, I tell her, and I tell her to hang in there. I hear back from her email number 2, thanks so much for responding, and thank you for the gift of your ebook. My David is so unbelievably hurt right now, but we've been there before. Let me take everything in and discuss it with the life coach that they set up for me. I have a phone session with her tomorrow night. So Jane, I have a concern that David is crisising, so you're researching other experts, and I don't want to be triangled in as the other expert when you might be working with some darn good, wise people who really know what they're doing. So yes, he does have abandonment issues, and you've rightly ascertained that, and maybe they're not focusing on that as they should well enough, but it is an addiction. Whether you call it abandonment issues or addiction, he needs to learn how to be alone. He needs to fill up the emptiness in his soul. He can't fill up the emptiness in his soul with another person. The problem that David is having isn't that the show got it wrong. The problem is his childhood, and your problem is your childhood. Jane writes on, you are right. Of all the challenging things I've ever accomplished in my life, this is by far the toughest thing I've ever dealt with. She's beat Olympic competition. She's been a world champion. She's become a renowned surgeon. And she says the hardest thing that she's ever had to deal with is her abandonment issues. That tells you how difficult abandonment issues are. The thing is, I have no desire to abandon David when he's not the fire-breathing dragon that I talk about in my videos and book. He's very sweet, loving, attractive, funny, smart individual. He's just got genetics and environmental influences working against him. Well, he had his childhood working against him, and he was severely abandoned as a child. That I know. Jane writes, my type A personality doesn't help, but there is no doubt in my mind that I love him and I do not want our relationship to end. So another description of a type A personality we would call counterdependency. And here's the thing, Jane, you're every bit as unhealthy as David is. and he's acting pretty goofy and pretty unstable. But trust me when I tell you that underneath your tough exterior and your accomplishments and your strengths, there's a needy, wounded, sad little girl in there too. Jane writes, I'm a very open person, and I shared things about my past with David early in our relationship because I did not want any secrets between us. So I took that as she shared sexual things that had happened, which for people without abandonment issues are really of no consequence. If somebody had sexual relationships before they met you, they didn't cheat on you or abandon you. That's before you met them. It's not an issue. Had I known about abandonment issues and how common they are, I would have kept this information to myself. So, Jane, actually, I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't know what exactly you shared with her, but I'm sure it was common stuff. And I think sharing about your past was perfectly okay. And his intense issues around abandonment, they'd have come up anyway. So don't feel like you're sharing what you did when you shared it triggered something and made your relationship more painful than it had to be. It's okay to base a relationship on truth and honesty. There's nothing wrong with that. And psychologically, David needs to grow up and put on his big boy pants and get a hold of his abandonment issues. And he can learn how to do this by reading my book. You can't heal your abandonment issues, but you certainly can manage them with a lot of insight and a lot of inner child work. Jane writes, it's too late to change the past. All I can do is pray that David will take a look at the info I sent him from your website and let me know that he accepts it and wants to work on it. Jane says, you most certainly can use our story for your video. We were having so much drama in our lives that I was prepared to do a reality show surrounding it, though abandonment issues weren't the focus. Now I realize how much of a problem it is, and I see how it has been destroying all of our attempts to thrive and prosper. Again, Jane, it isn't so much that the abandonment issues themselves are the culprit. The culprit is your childhood and his childhood. And any program of recovery that's effective will get you focused on healing the wounds of your childhood. See, what happens is you grew up probably with a dad who needed rescuing, maybe a mom, and certainly some ball dropping by one or both, and you learned how to overfunction. You're a rescuer and an overfunctioner, and that's why you need this fellow who's sort of cracking apart. And your childhood was every bit as broken as his was. So the fact that you're driven to rescue him it just means that you haven't healed your own wounded little kid from your own childhood. And when we are so walled off from our own pain, many times our love life is driven by a compulsive need to rescue the wounded little kid in the other person. Jane writes, our story is much more complex than what I've told you, as I'm sure you already know, but you've given me more tools than anyone else at this point, and like you, I have a strong desire to help others. You have a strong desire to rescue others, as I probably do as well, and you need to learn how to not be Superwoman, Jane. You've accomplished more in your years on the earth than most TIM women together accomplished. And you did that because you're Superwoman. but it's time to be human and broken and not superwoman. Jane writes, this take care of myself therapy they prescribed by sending me away is about to kill both me and David. Nobody's getting killed by you guys being apart. It just feels that way. It feels that way to him because he's a desperately needy, voracious little kid, probably a little infant on the inside, and that's not his fault. He got that from his childhood, but nonetheless, he needs to clean up the mess that his parents made. And it's killing you because your rescuing compulsion causes you to hurt a great deal when he's hurting. So Jane writes, thank you and have a blessed Easter. Easter was yesterday. And then I got another email. I sent her a short email just saying, keep reading the book and keep hanging in there. And she writes back, I just wanted to thank you for the ebook. It seems to work for the damage control. She wanted damage control for her abandonment issues she was having. I was able to get David to at least look at it and read a few pages, and it at least stopped the mean acting out that he was doing. He was very distraught though, and weeping so much that he threw up a few times. I felt so bad for him. I definitely see now, though, how my defensive reactions were only making the problem worse. Yeah, if he was having his abandonment issues go off and then you were being defensive, I can see why that would have been a disaster. So, you've already helped us more than anyone from, I guess her name's Ayanla, Fix My Life, laughing out loud. Again, Jane, way too much focus on David, and I want you to consider, was there anybody in your childhood that you were driven to rescue? Who was that? Was it your dad? Was it your mom? Did you see your mom and dad's woundedness and their little boy or little girl when you were still growing up? I'm just wondering that would fit here. So pray, folks out there, for David and Jane as they go through this situation, that they get into some really solid recovery, that they take advantage of the resources that are presented to them, that there just get to be some stability in their situation. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel on YouTube, you really should do so. I think we're past 2,800, going toward 2,900. We just passed 300,000 views today. And for super famous rock stars, that doesn't sound like much, but for Indiana, north side of Indianapolis therapists who just sharing what we know, it's been a blessing. I think we've been going at it 2 or 3 years now, and it's a blessing, and it's helping people all over the world, and we enjoy doing them, and we enjoy being able to help people like Jane here. Visit our website. There are 6 books on there that you can purchase, including Managing Abandonment Issues Through Recovery. There's a great book on shame. There's a great book on affair recovery. Check that out. Also, there are 10 therapists at Family Tree Counseling with various levels of experience. We have interns, we have people who just started their practice, we have great therapists, we have Jerry Wise, who's brilliant. So there are various economic ways that we can work with you via Skype all across the English-speaking world, where even somebody who doesn't have a lot of money, you're not going to get somebody with a lot of experience, but you're going to get somebody that I supervise directly, who uses our paradigm, and it will be very helpful to you. So folks, thank you for checking out the video today, and God bless.